good to be here and visit with you today.
Yes, it sure is. How you doing, Aunt Althea?
Good. Glad to have both of you.
It's great to be here.
We just have a few questions to ask you for posterity's sake. Okay? All right. Aunt Althea,
Yes.
where were you born and where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Newcastle, Delaware, and I grew up there.
What was it like growing up and living in Newcastle when you were a child?
It was very much like a big family growing up. Most of the neighbors knew each other, and we as children played around and just had a good time.
Well, tell us about your parents back then.
Oh, my parents, yeah, they were fine. Mother was the disciplinarian, you might understand that. And
We
Daddy
used to
was
call her Nana V. So what did you all call her?
Mother. She didn't like us to call her Mother.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, what was she like?
I thought she did a very good job of raising us along with my father because they instilled in us those principles that get you through life and help you to really get to know people and to be accepted in the community and in your workplace and whatever you were endeavoring to do.
And Althea, did your mother work as you were growing up? Like outside the home?
I remember one time that she took a little job outside of the home. A lady that lived just around the corner, she would go there and do her laundry and probably go over the house a little bit. Other than that, no.
Any special memories of your mother?
Oh, yeah. I remember when we were all little that Christmas time we received a lot of candy. So she would not let us eat all of it at one time. And rather she would box it up, and then every night before going to bed, it was almost like a reward. She would let us have some candy.
Aww.
But, yeah. But we mostly, I did anyway. I always think that I was Daddy's little girl. I sat next to him at the table when we had our meals, and I remember one time he had a cup of coffee, and I stuffed that cup with my bread, and he took a spoon and ate it. And my mother says, "You don't do that to me." I said, "Oh yeah, I know." But Daddy and I, mainly in the community, we would, there was a couple of people that we played cards with, pinochle. So Daddy built himself like a little stand that he could put his cards in and play that way. So we used to have a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun with my father. And,
Well, speaking of your dad, tell us a little bit about him. What was he like?
my daddy was just great to me, and I think most people, because when he passed away, Tricky, believe it or not, the whole community just fell apart. I was carrying Joseph at the time, and the doctor said if I felt that I could attend that funeral and not get upset, that I could go. But I decided not to go simply because I used it as an excuse. I didn't want to look at him in death. I didn't want to see him that way, you know. So yeah, we were very close, very close. Closer to him than to my mother. And I think that was so with most of us except Gwenny. Well, Gwenny was the baby, and Gwenny had decided that she was not going to ask him. She told me that too. I'm not going to ask him if I can go to the dance. I'm not going to tell him. I'm going to tell him. Yeah, and that's what she did. But we had a loving family.
And Althea, where did your father go to school?
Columbia University is where he got his master's degree, but his undergraduate degree came from Livingston College in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's awesome for that time. So he was a school teacher and a principal.
Yes.
What was the name of the school where he taught?
Booker T. Washington
Really?
School.
Okay. What memories do you have of him as a father being a teacher?
Well, one thing I remember being a teacher and a father, him being a teacher and a father, that at mealtime, we had to kind of learn, say poetry and stuff like that, and be able to speak that back to him. He wanted us to learn all the things that we possibly learned that week. And even today, I'm that way. I still like to speak some of the poetry that I learned early on.
Wonderful.
And when Joseph and Michelle were kids, I used to, when I was cooking dinner, I'd have a knife in my hand probably, but I would just repeat this, to be or not to be. I like to, it's Shakespeare, to be or not to be.
I like Shakespeare.
That is the question.
And out there, those are some wonderful memories that you had that Vicki asked you those questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, my mother and father had 10 children. Only 7 lived, so I knew the 7.
What was it like growing up with such a large family?
For me, it was great.
And how so?
Might not have been for the others, but it was great for me. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any special family memories as a child or a teenager when you were growing up?
I do. One thing I like to always keep in mind is at Christmas time. Very special in our family and in our community because my brother Quintus carried over a tradition into his family, I believe, and that is never to go to sleep Christmas Eve. We stayed awake all night, and it just delighted my mother. And because Maurice and my older brothers were already grown and married, so they would bring their spouses home. And it was like we divided our time between the men and the women. All the women, we were upstairs talking and chattering. And I remember one time we were all talking at the same time probably because my mother said, "Shut up and let me talk." And that's memorable.
That's good.
Yes.
What are some of the best memories that you know about your, that you remember about your siblings? Let's start off with Uncle Max, Maurice.
Maurice? The one thing I remember about Maurice, and he was very sweet and nice, being the oldest child, 9 years older than myself, and as it went down, older than them, Mother gave him permission to discipline us if we weren't doing what he told us to do. And one thing I remember, my brother's Quintus. The last time Maurice tried to get Quintus to do something, and that something was to scrub the kitchen floor, my brother Quintus said, "You scrub it." So he never asked any more of my brother to do anything.
What about Uncle Merle?
Uncle Merle? Oh, I used Uncle Merle as my shield. He was great.
Really?
Yeah, and we had our high school dances on the weekend, and the only way I could get to go to the dances if Merle went. Mother and Daddy said you can't go by yourself, and I wasn't supposed to be courting then or having company. So I had to lean on him. And sometimes if he wanted me to do something and I would say no, he says, "Well, I'm going to tell Mother and Daddy that you were seeing David." Oh, please don't do that.
And Albion Jr.?
Albion, not so much. The thing that I remember about Albion, because he was fine, very nice brother. But I had I had one of the childhood diseases. And I remember him, I had long hair anyhow. So I don't know what it brought it about, but he took me by the hair in the top of my head and just twisted me around. And yeah, around and around and around like a top. Oh, come on. But, yeah, we had a lot of fun.
I remember seeing pictures of you. You were a very beautiful woman. Young
You think
lady.
so?
Yeah, very much.
I'm not
Yes, you
beautiful
were.
now.
Now, what about
I'm
Aunt?
not beautiful now.
Yes,
You
you
still
are.
are.
Yes, you are. Sharp.
What about your sister Portia?
Well, Portia did not live with us, did not grow up with us. She was raised by my great aunt Lucy in Philadelphia. And Portia would go every summer and spend that summertime with Aunt Lucy and my mother's sisters. And one time, Aunt Lucy called my mother and father, said, we're going to keep Portia and we're going to put her in school in Philadelphia. And the excuse was Portia always had cross eyes and problems with her eyes. And we're going to take her to Goodwill and have her tested and see if they can straighten her eyes out.
I think that was Will's eyes, right?
Will's eye,
Okay.
yeah. It was, thank you,
Mhm.
Will's eye. So that's meant that we didn't get to really know Portia that well.
Getting back to your brother Quintus, who is my father.
We were buddies.
Any special memories?
Well, I know he looked out for me when I went to the dances and all, Merle and Quint.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just know we kind of hung out together,
Mm-hmm.
like in school.
I heard stories of Merle and Quintus always loved to swim in the river. Do you remember some of
Oh,
those
let me
times?
tell you about that. Yes, down at the river, down at the wharf, because it's different now. There used to have a ferry that went from Newcastle to New Jersey, and that's the way the people, the travelers, took that route who wanted to go south, go Route 13. They had to take the ferry over. And we used to swim there too, in that Delaware River, and I can't believe it now that we did. And one time we were down at the river because we really lived off the water, off of the river there. And I remember this one time Merle was in the river, and Quint and I looked up, and here Merle was just bobbing up and down like he was going to drown. And Quintus and I, your father, and I went out and brought Merle in to shore. Mm-hmm. So it was good times. We did crabbing, mostly crabbing, down at the wharf, and fishing.
Hmm.
But those were times when we just
Good time.
enjoyed the summer. Yeah, good times.
And getting to Aunt Gwen, the youngest daughter,
Yeah.
what were some of your favorite memories of her?
Oh, Gwenny and I, we kind of hung out there together. And I took care of her because I'm 5 years older. And I would rush home from school every night, every day, to take care of Gwen. And Mother was okay with that, and so was I, until I don't know what Gwenny did, and I wanted to spank her or smack her or hit her. And Mother said, "You do not hit her." So that ended my relationship with Gwen as a kid. I thought, if I can't make her mine.
Now, as y'all grew older, how was the relationship with all of them kind of
Everybody.
Yeah.
We had a great relationship with each other. Yeah. And Gwenny and I were close.
That's good.
And we only saw Portia in the summer, as I said before,
Mhm.
because my great aunt Lucy raised her in Philadelphia.
Do you have any other relatives that you remember quite well during these times? Or have any-
On Gertrude and I,
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
We were very close, and Uncle Moses, he was like a second father, and Aunt Gertrude. But what Aunt Gertrude and I would do, Uncle Moses belonged to the Elks or some fraternity like that, and he would have go to one of their meetings, and as soon as he left, we got into his liquor.
Oh my goodness.
And I can see Aunt Gertrude now. She would, didn't take much to get her going. And she would just be sitting there laughing and just so relaxed. But I remember we had a good time drinking his liquor.
How about Aunt Elizabeth?
Aunt Elizabeth, yeah. She was great too. Aunt Elizabeth was kind of fiery like. And Aunt Elizabeth with Maurice and Al and Harold and all that older. She palled around with them when we were together, and she'd get enough liquor in it that she'd start telling stories. But Aunt Elizabeth was nice.
That's great. As you think over those years, are there some special events or stories that you can especially remember that you would like to share with us?
Well, I do know, I'll share this one with you. Every year in Newcastle, we had the parade to what we call the glebe. It was a graveyard, yeah. And my mother, Quint was with me, but then Quint went home and without me, and Mother sent him back for me. And Quint said, Mother said for you to come home. And I sent the wrong message home to my mother. I said, you tell Mother I'll come when I get ready.
Oh my goodness.
No, you did.
That was the wrong thing. My daddy had to make her stop whipping me.
Oh,
She met me at the door.
So, Aunt Althea, what was it like in the 40s and the 50s as an adult?
Back then I was kind of into, as we used to call it, courting in the 40s, late 40s. And I remember my daddy, at that time you had to bring your company home, your friends, boyfriends home. And he did like Joseph. He liked him a lot. And other friends that came, but there was one guy that came to the house. I had not invited him. I didn't know he was coming. But he had a slouched hat on, rain hat, and a slouched, wrinkled overcoat, raincoat. And Daddy didn't say anything until the guy left. And Daddy said, don't you bring him here anymore. I said, Daddy, I didn't invite him. That was the only boyfriend I had that Daddy said not to have any more to do with her. I said, well, I did not have. But in those days, in our family, I had to bring my boyfriends home. This fella came one night and took me out, and he was late bringing me back. And Daddy was really upset with him. And he told me not to bring him anymore. But I did not ask him to come.
Well, when did you meet the love of your life?
Joseph came along. The way because I knew him from high school. And the way he got to come and see me at the house is that my girlfriend, very close girlfriend, Nadine, who was at Howard University, came. She always called my father Daddy. Because I think her daddy was dead. But we had to take a bus from Newcastle to Wilmington to get to the train, the bus line. And we were standing on the corner waiting for the bus from Newcastle to take us into Wilmington to get the train for her to go back to Philly. And he came along, he said, can I take you? And we said yes. So when he brought me back to the house, he was very quiet, and he said, "Can I come to see you?" I said, "Yes. You come and visit me." So he did, and it went from there.
So he
kinda
was
grew on me.
special to you.
Yes.
Okay. And what did your parents think of him?
Oh, they thought he was fine.
Did he ask permission
Joseph?
to marry you?
Well, that's the story too, because he asked, believe it or not, he asked me if I would marry him. And I told him no.
Oh my goodness.
I said no. I said, if I find out and realize that I really love you, I'll let you know.
I love it. I
Can
love
you
it.
believe that? I said that to my husband.
Oh my
But he made the best husband. And he wanted to ask my father if he could marry me. And I told him, no, you don't have to ask Daddy. I said, because my daddy thinks a lot of you. And I don't think you have to ask him. So Joseph prevailed on me to ask my father. I said, well, okay, you ask Dad. And so I remember it was the day before we got married that Daddy was in his bedroom lying across the bed, and Joseph went in and said, Mr. Unthank, I hope it's all right with you. I would like to marry Althea. And Daddy said, hell, you're getting married tomorrow.
A little late, right?
Wait, he said, hell, you're
Little
getting
late.
married tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But he said, well, so Joseph said, well, I just want you to know, Mr. Unthank, that I will always take care of Althea. You will not have to worry about her and being cared for. And I thought that was very nice.
So after you married, what sort of work did you do?
Oh, first of all, I was mostly in clerical work. And I started out at the Dover Air Force Base as a clerk typist. And then I went from that to secretary. And then I went back to school and got some education, more education in that field. And I became a manager of the office. Because truly I wanted to be a nurse.
Oh.
That's what I wanted to be. But I didn't get to go to nursing school. And when Joseph finished college and was able to support me fully, he said, now you can go and get your further education. And I wanted to go to the School of Nursing, and it was in it was Phillips School of Nursing. And they were in North Carolina, I think. But that school had closed.
Oh,
So I never endeavored to do anything else.
So where did you and Uncle Joe live before your children were born?
In Newport News, Virginia.
News,
Newport News, yeah.
And then you
And then-
went to Delaware City next?
No,
No?
Delaware City was not suited for me. I thought it was Peyton Place.
Oh, okay. Well, what led you and Uncle Joe to move to Pittsburgh?
His job. He was at the Dover Air Force Base, and he was working as an electrician, which was his field work. And he saw this notice that there was a position open in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
And he said, do you think I'd do well with that? I said, oh yeah, always encouraged him.
So while you were in Reading, what kinds of activities were you involved
You mean
in?
here in Reading?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we had a social club. It was called the Double Knots. And it was called that because it was husband and wife.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was
I
very
get that.
nice. And it was
I
a
did
social
not
type.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Husband and wife. And so we got to meet people that we wouldn't otherwise have met through the club because they took in new members.
Now, I remember you used to talk quite often about working at the prison.
Oh yes, I worked at the prison here in Reading.
And what organization was
And
that?
I established the Mother's Voice program too, working at the prison. But what we would do there is each week, weekday, maybe it was a Thursday, I would go to the prison like early in the morning and help the girls to read a book, a child's book. And they would take the book and we would tape it. And we would send that book and the tape to the caregiver who would read it to the child. And what stands out with me with that is that there was one little girl, she was about 2 years old, and when she got the book and her grandmother was reading to her and she heard her mother's voice and she said, "Mommy, Mommy." Oh, it was just great, yeah.
So, and Althea,
Yes.
this is now 2023, 2023. And what have you enjoyed mostly during your retirement years?
That I'm free to get up when I want to in the morning and just be able to do whatever I want to do.
You like shopping?
Well, not so much now. I used to like shopping.
Okay.
I used to be in and out of the stores, not always buying, but looking.
Now, is it true that you're 94 going on 95?
I'll be 95 in September.
Wow. And are you still independent? You know, well, you said you don't do much shopping now, but do you,
No.
do you drive? Do you still drive?
I still drive. Now, I don't drive too far. I use common sense. But I do drive. I go to the stores. I go to church if I want to drive to church. I drive where I want to drive.
That's good.
And I'm very careful.
Now, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to? I mean,
You mean now?
now, yes. Are you moving?
I'm moving.
Okay.
I'm moving to a place called Phoebe. And yeah, I am looking forward to that because I do not have to worry about cooking anymore, which is a problem for me, or unnecessary chore. So yes, I think I'm moving to Phoebe in June. Around June the 14th, I'll be at Phoebe.
So you'll still have your independence, and you just enjoy?
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it.
Not having to cook.
Yeah, that'll be fine when I move there.
Okay, the last question.
Okay.
Very important.
All right.
Okay. Now, if all your grandchildren and your nieces and nephews were sitting here right now today, what would be some of the words of wisdom that you would share with them?
This above all,
Okay.
to thine own self be true,
Very good.
and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. I think the other thing I would like to say is I think that what we need to do is be careful of what we say and do, because even when you're upset and you're sort of angry, like, you cannot take those words back. And you can say, "I'm sorry" forever. But they're out there, you spoke them. So you must be careful. And somewhere along the line, I've learned, and I've heard that it was a good thing to do, is to do a little counting before you blur out, Count to 10, some people say. Just kind of think what you're going to say. Because you cannot take
it
those
back.
words back. But my father always said, and I remember that, never go to bed you just said it, angry, never go to bed, mainly with your spouse, on an argument. Daddy said, somebody has to make up. He said, because you never know
That's right.
whether you are going to be alive the next day. And I think of all your children, and the one thing that I think of is the fact that you have all done well in life. All have done well. We don't have not one that was in prison for anything or in the news for anything bad. And because Daddy used to say, and Mother probably said it too, but you don't want to drag your family name in the street.
And Althea, this has really been so much fun, and we just want to thank you, not only for being our aunt, but just for doing this. So thank you, Aunt Althea.
Thank
We
you,
love
Aunt Althea.
Glad I
you.
could do that.
Thank you.